Anyway, let's learn about the I-70 serial killer.
In 1992, a man with dull red hair and sleepy eyes stalked retail stores along Interstate 70 between Indianapolis and Wichita.
Oh.
He selected businesses that were under-trafficked and understaffed. He surveyed shops from the parking lot, looking through plate glass to determine if the potential victim fit his profile. He would pretend to be a customer, casing the interior of the building to determine...
No rules, no boundaries. He doesn't flinch at torture, human trafficking, or genocide. He's not loyal to a flag or a country.
The serial killer in question.
Truly alone. Then, he would ambush his victim with a .22 caliber pistol,
Oh shit.
escorting them out of view and executing them with a shot to the back of the head. He came to be known as the I-70 killer, claiming 6 victims within a month.
In a month?
Some speculate he is connected to another spree of killings in Texas, where he is known as the I-35 killer. At the time of investigation, some detectives described these cases as going cold as soon as the crime was committed. They were left with few leads and even fewer suspects. These cases have remained unsolved for decades. To this day, the I-70 killer has not been caught.
Oh, yikes.
The St. Charles Police Department in Missouri renewed their investigation efforts in October 2021, reuniting a task force between multiple state and federal agencies. They plan to re-examine thousands of case files tucked into 10 cabinet drawers within the walls of the precinct building. They will review all the evidence they have on the 6 murders that occurred in 1992 along Interstate 70 and the 3 murders that occurred in 1993 along Interstate 35. The story of the I-70 killer begins
That's
with
a long
Robin Foldauer.
stretch of land. That's a big ass stretch of land.
On April 8th, 1992, Robin Foldauer, age 26, had to cover the afternoon shift at Payless Shoe Source
Not
when one of her
Payless Shoe
employees
Source.
called off.
Yikes.
She was the manager, and the store only had 2 full-time employees with several part-timers. The limited staff meant this wasn't her first time being called in,
I'd
and
be
she
mad.
would likely have to work the store alone. Located on the outer edge of Indianapolis at 7325 Pendleton Pike, the store had lax security measures. There were no cameras or alarm systems. The only precaution was a buzzer that notified employees when someone entered the store. Police are uncertain of the specifics of that afternoon. They would later review transactions conducted at the register to determine a timeline. The last purchase occurred at 1:12 p.m., including 1 pair of men's shoes and 1 pair of women's shoes. Police believe that shortly after, Foldauer was escorted to the storage room in the back of the building. There, she was fatally shot with a .22 caliber pistol. The perpetrator emptied the register and left through the rear exit. In the passing hours, potential customers arrived, and seeing the store unattended, they stole shoes, unaware of Foldauer in the back of the store. It wasn't until a worker from the Speedway gas station next door arrived that Foldauer was finally discovered.
Damn.
Although the register likely couldn't have contained more than a few $100s, the operating theory for police was that this was a robbery gone wrong. However, this would soon come to change.
Next door at the Speedway station, customers still can't believe someone was killed just next door. Police are sticking with the theory the motive for the killing is robbery. Fuldauer, who was working alone at the time of the killing, died of a gunshot wound to the head.
Being the person who called out, you must be so fucking relieved, but also feeling terrible. God, how do you even feel after that?
Patricia Smith and Patricia Majors, ages 23 and 32, worked at La Bride d'Elegance, a bridal shop at 4613 East Kellogg in Wichita, Kansas. Majors owned the store with her husband, and Smith was a part-time employee who was working as a bridal consultant while pursuing a nursing degree. The store was scheduled to close at 6 p.m. that night. However, the two women planned to stay late for a male customer who needed to pick up a cummerbund. Smith's husband, Norman, waited up for her, and when she didn't return home after work at 6:15 p.m., he called the store. There was no answer.
Okay.
Police believed the two women opened the doors to a man thinking their customer had arrived. Tragically, it was the I-70 killer, armed with a .22 caliber semi-automatic firearm. He led the
Vitos, hello, hi, hello, hi. We're learning about the I-70 serial killer.
two women to the back of the bridal shop to a room that served as a work area and office. It was there that he shot both women in the back of the head. The perpetrator emptied the register, and as he was fleeing the store, he encountered the male customer who had arrived to pick up his cummerbund. He ordered the man into the store at gunpoint, but in an act of defiance, the man refused and fled the scene, luckily without incident.
He got away?
This witness would later provide police with a sketch of the perpetrator. He was described as 5'7" and 150 pounds with dull red hair cut short.
He looks like a
His
loser.
face was stubbled. The police matched ballistics at the scene with those found with Fuldauer, and law enforcement knew they were dealing with a serial killer.
Yeah, after 3, it's a serial killer, right? Oh, man. Imagine not shooting the guy running away from me, by the way.
Michael McCown, age 40, was working at Sylvia's ceramic shop on April 27, 1992.
Ceramic shop.
Located at 2615 South 3rd Street in Terre Haute, Indiana. The store belonged to McCown's mother. With no video evidence or witnesses, detectives have tried to recreate the chain of events. It's likely that McCown was directed by a customer to retrieve a small white ceramic house on a shelf behind the counter. When he turned to grab the house, he was shot at close range to the back of the head.
Oh.
Some sources cite gunpowder stippling at the wound, suggesting the barrel of the gun was less than 4 inches away. The register had not been emptied, and $15 remained in McCown's pocket. However, his wallet was gone. The slaying of Michael McCown differed in many ways from the modus operandi of the I-70 killer.
Yeah.
McCown was the sole male victim, and he was not escorted to a back room. It has been widely reported that McCown had long hair and an earring at the time of death, suggesting he could have been mistaken for a woman. However, this has been called into question. One of his sisters revealed that McCown had short hair at the time of the killing. Additionally, at such close range, it would be difficult to mistake his gender. These differences suggest the I-70 killer could have been more opportunistic than originally profiled. McCown may not have fit the preferred victim profile, but he was slain anyway.
Yeah,
It
he
may
might have
also
been a
suggest
well
that
fuck it
the
kind of
I-70
moment.
killer was less spontaneous than originally believed. It's important to note that Sylvia's store was typically operated by McCown's mother. Perhaps the store had been surveyed at a previous date, identifying McCown's mother as a preferred victim, only to discover her son at the register on April 27th.
And he was like, I'm not coming back here for a while. It might be that he lives further from that store. So he couldn't come back for the mother, and he was like, well, I'm just taking this one then.
Nancy Kitzmiller, age 24, managed Boot Village, a Western footwear shop in St. Charles, Missouri, just outside St. Louis. She had recently graduated with a degree in geography from Oklahoma State, and she was weeks away from starting a job with the Defense Mapping Agency. She was filling in for an employee who had called off, and her shift started at noon that day.
These poor people coming in on a call-off.
Salon and veterinary clinic in Bogey Hills Plaza, and on that day it was busy with shoppers. Witnesses spotted Kitzmiller helping a customer at 2:30 p.m. They described him as medium height with dull red hair. Only minutes later, she was found by customers in the office at the rear of the store. She had been shot in the head.
They didn't hear the gunshot?
A small amount of cash was missing from the register, but the perpetrator had already fled the scene.
So it seems like he takes the cash when he shoots a woman. Maybe the guy who got shot was like a frustration killing. He's like, fuck, every time I've been here, it's been a woman. Why is it this time it's a guy? And he shot him and left because he was pissed. That's what I'm getting the vibe of. You die if you go to work. That's what I'm seeing. If someone calls out, you're gonna get murdered. Don't go in.
On May 7th, 1992, Sarah Blessing, aged 37, opened the Store of Many Colors around noon. The New Age shop was located in Raytown, Missouri, near Kansas City, in the Woodson Village Shopping Center. It was typically worked by only one employee at a time. At 6:15 p.m., Tim Hickman, the owner of a VHS store that neighbored the Store of Many Colors, spotted an unidentified man loitering in the area. He was described as having dark hair, wearing a tweed jacket that would have been too warm for the weather. Hickman later heard a pop through the cinder block walls that separated their stores. He spotted the man exiting the Store of Many Colors until he rounded the corner and disappeared behind the building.
Yikes.
Hickman found Blessing face down in the back room of her store with a gunshot wound to the head. His eyewitness account gave police another opportunity to create a sketch, hoping it would drum up more leads. More than two other witnesses would spot the man just a mile away from Interstate 70. The 6 murders along Interstate 70 were connected through ballistics. The perpetrator had used the same .22 caliber ammunition and pistol in all 6 killings.
Bro, he loves that
gun. The victim
gun.
profiles matched for all but McCown. The killer was hunting female store clerks, young brunettes, and he was murdering them, execution style. This wasn't about robbery. This was about homicide. For
This guy's
some,
a freak!
this is the end of the spree for the I-70 killer. However, many believe he continued his killings a year later and just a few states away. Mary Ann Glasscock, age 51, owned and worked the register at Emporium Antiques in Fort Worth, Texas. The store was located at 470.
Okay, this place is shit. The whole Dallas area. Texas sucks, but this area is at worst.
09 Bryce, near Interstate 35. Glasscock phoned a repairman to reschedule an appointment as she would be late to her shop. Robert Johnson arrived at the store at 11:30 a.m. and found a female customer waiting outside. She told him that she had been knocking, but the store appeared to be empty. Johnson entered the unlocked store and found Glasscock partially nude with her pants pulled to her ankles. She had suffered a gunshot wound to the head, and she lay in a pool of blood. Nearby, a .22 caliber shell casing was found. The perpetrator had emptied the register and taken Glasscock's keys. However, her car was found in the parking lot by investigators.
Maybe it's a
Glasscock's
trophy?
murder was similar to the I-70 killings in many ways. A single female brunette store clerk shot execution style with a .22 caliber pistol. Robbery didn't seem to be the motive, and the killer left with a trophy. However, ballistics wouldn't match the previous spree of killings, and Texas investigators rejected the notion that these killings were committed by the same perpetrator.
How are the ballistics different? Is it just a different gun?
Amy Vess, aged 22, worked the register at Dancer's Closet, a dance apparel store located at 4001 West Green Oaks in Arlington, Texas. This location was only a short drive away from the scene of Glasscock's murder. Similar to Nancy Kitzmiller, Vess was not meant to be working on that evening.
God,
She had been
another
called
fucking
into
call
the dance
out.
shop to cover a shift. Sometime between 6:15 p.m. and 6:22 p.m., a stranger entered the store and ordered the woman to the back room. There, he shot her twice.
Twice?
Once in the neck behind the left ear and once in the back of the head. As he fled the store, he emptied the register of $200 and disappeared. One source reported that the neighboring store owner saw a strange man in the parking lot at 6:15 p.m. He was wearing a wig.
This guy's just protesting against callouts. I feel like if this is the same guy, probably just different gun though. People tend to stick to same brands of ammunition. It could just be different brand, which makes it less likely to be the same dude. I feel if it is the same guy, he probably was like, let's do things a little bit different, but also like maybe he has some sort. He's actually the boss that's calling everyone in. Maybe that's why he was so mad at the dude who was working at his mom's shop. He's like, you're not your mother. What the fuck? I do think this guy, he either got super sloppy and confident after the 6 on the I-70 that he was like, okay, I-35, I can get a little bit freaky with it. I'm going to shoot this one 2 times. I'm going to take the pants off of this one. It's either a different person or the guy's on a huge ego trip now.
And white headband. When investigators of the I-70 killings heard about Vess, they were anxious to connect the cases. They identified the matching MO and victim profile, proposing that ballistics didn't match because the killer had simply switched weapons. Again, Texas investigators were reluctant to connect the cases. They admitted there were similarities, but they remained unconvinced.
You could make the argument he used it so often he ditched the old pistol and new ammo just in case he got searched. Yeah, he's like, 6 is enough. Let's trade guns.
Vicky Webb, age 35, worked the register at Alternatives Gift Shop. It was located in the Rice Village shopping district, across from Houston's Rice University. It was 10 a.m. that Saturday when a short man with shaggy hair, estimated at 50 years old, entered the store briefly, leaving only to return a little more than an hour later. He spoke at length with Webb. He told her,
From what I know, sorry, I'm going to rewind a little bit. From what I know of this stretch of highway, is that it is a very murderous highway. This is a very murderous highway. I remember watching a documentary on it.
district, across from Houston's Rice University. It was 10 a.m. that Saturday when a short man with shaggy hair, estimated at 50 years old, entered the store briefly, leaving only to return a little more than an hour later. He spoke at length with Webb. He told her his niece was on her way to meet him. Similar to his interaction with McCown, he attempted to purchase an item, a small copper picture frame. During the transaction, he shot Webb in the back of the neck, and the bullet struck her between the second and third vertebrae. She was paralyzed from the waist down, but still alive. The man jumped the counter and emptied the register of $75. Then, he pulled Webb's pants to her ankles, just as he had done with Marianne Glasscock. He put the gun to her head and pulled the trigger, but the gun misfired. He laughed at this, but before he could clear the jam, he was startled by a vehicle outside and fled the scene. Webb was even luckier, as doctors discovered she had an abnormally large spine, which allowed her to rehabilitate after her injury.
Holy
regaining
shit!
the ability to walk after just 3 weeks.
W!
Webb would be the only surviving victim.
Holy shit, good for her! There's no more cases after that? He probably got scared because she lived.
Investigators of the I-70 and I-35 killings began to compare notes and piece together a profile of their perpetrator. Their physical description came from the surviving eyewitnesses. The perpetrator had lazy eyelids, and he was described as looking sleepy. He was between 35 and 50 years old at the time. He had thinning red hair combed forward, and he was of average build and height. He was regularly described as having a stubbled beard. In 2012, the St. Charles Police Department revealed additional information about the .22 caliber pistol used in the I-70 killings. They suggested it could have been an Intratec Scorpion or Irma Werke model ET-22. The ammunition was CCI brand .22 caliber long rifle copper-clad lead bullets. This ammunition and caliber are among the most popular in the United States. There was one distinguishing trait about the ammunition used in these killings. It contained traces of corundum and rouge.
Rouge?
Corundum is an abrasive and rouge is a lubricant. This suggested that the perpetrator could have been employed as a machinist, familiar with grinding or polishing metals. Alternatively, these materials are used in the maintenance of weapons. The rouge may have been used to polish the feed ramp for the pistol. Or, these materials could have been used in a process known as fire lapping. Fire lapping is when bullets are coated in a lubricated abrasive and fired through the barrel to clean or change the rifling of a weapon.
Huh.
As there remains little evidence, criminal profiling will likely be necessary to identify suspects. The following is a limited profile of the I-70 killer.
Okay.
He targeted small stores off Interstates 70 and 35.
Okay.
These were not heavily trafficked establishments, which suggested that robbery was not a motive, although he did take small amounts of cash from the registers at each scene.
I think the small amounts of cash were to try to paint it as a robbery, right? I think he was trying to have like a little bit more motive.
Names and sold goods suggested the stores would be operated by females. La Bride d'Elegance and Sylvia Ceramics, along with craft stores and boot shops. Perhaps the killer was selecting these stores as they would have a higher potential for a victim who fit his preferred profile. The ritualism of these killings and the control exhibited by the killer suggest he was an organized serial killer. These individuals are often characterized as having high intelligence, underemployment, social competence, and more. They plan their offenses, often targeting strangers, and they demand complete submission from their victims. While the prevailing theory is that these murders were simply opportunistic, many of the characteristics suggest this killer was organized and methodical. The I-70 killer was a spree killer, operating in short bursts before going dormant. This demonstrates the killer was capable of regulating his urges. Some speculate that the long distances suggested that he may have been a traveling salesman truck driver, or construction subcontractor. If this is the case, his vehicle was likely branded for business and would have been easily recognizable. Every crime scene neighbors a nearby residential area, and it has been suggested that the killer parked in these residential areas and walked to the crime scene, only fleeing to his vehicle off-site after the commission of a crime. This would imply that the I-70 killer was somewhat familiar with his intended targets, and the areas surrounding his potential crime scenes could have been scouted beforehand.
Yeah.
Perhaps these killings weren't acts of pure spontaneity. Perhaps the I-70 killer surveilled these stores, selecting employees who fit his profile, and returning at another date to commit his crime. The bullets of his weapon had ejection marks, suggesting that the killer was using a weapon with a high-capacity ammo clip. This means he arrived at the scene prepared to shoot much more than 1 or 2 bullets. In
If
2021,
necessary, I guess.
the St. Charles Police Department renewed their efforts to crack this cold case. They released an age-progressed police sketch and reunited the original agencies involved in the investigation. They sent samples for DNA testing, as technological innovations allow for improved testing of trace evidence. As of November 2021, results are still pending.
Okay.
Additionally, investigators received a new lead connected to a similar crime in 2001. The convenience
Another
store robbery and murder of clerk Billy Brossman. This murder occurred just 7 blocks away from the murder of Michael McCown. Although the crime was featured on America's Most Wanted, it has never been solved. Police have stated that there are similarities between the cases, but ballistics don't match the 1992 murders. Others have suggested that deceased serial killer Neil Falls could have been the I-70 killer. In 2015, Falls attempted to abduct a sex worker, Heather Saul, in her home in West Virginia. During the attempted abduction, Saul broke free and fatally shot Falls. When investigating the crime scene, police found handcuffs, knives, bulletproof vests, shovels, machetes, hammers, and more in
I
Falls' trunk.
immediately saw the hammers.
Police connected objects in his vehicle to 9 other murdered women, some of whom were located in Illinois. Falls was in his 20s at the time of the 1992 murders, living in Kansas. He resembled the police sketches and matched the physical descriptions given by witnesses. He was an organized serial killer with a hatred for women. In 2018, police tested some of his belongings, but investigators found no definitive connection to the I-70 killings.
Yeah.
Interstate
know.
highways run like veins through America, traffic coursing through cities and small towns alike. But they can be part of a dark underbelly. With absolute anonymity and easy access, these highways are frequent hunting grounds for monsters. The I-70 killer was one of those monsters, preying on victims alongside the interstate. And hauntingly, he is still out there, somewhere.
Hmm. I'm checking Google right now to see if they caught him yet, because they said in 2021 results are still pending. Let me see. Let me see what I'm reading. A genetic genealogy test was conducted. Hmm. Yeah, they haven't found him yet. Yeah, everyone is still pretty sure that he's alive, though. There's something like 50 active serial killers in the U.S. How many active serial killers are in the United States? Between 25 and 50 at any given time. Some researchers believe 25 to 50 figure is low, arguing that many cases go unlinked or unreported, especially among marginalized communities. Yeah. Yeah. Seeing a man in the front corner of the parking lot holding something. Handheld smaller chainsaw. My God. Jesus. Yeah, this guy covered this case super well. I love how he covered it.